Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. Midlife gets to be one of those times where we feel some of the strangest things happening to our body if we don't stay on top of it with good diet and exercise. At least that's what we're always told. But what if there was a way that we could actually relax our system of the body with self-treatment? This particular self-treatment, from what I understand, in 10 minutes daily to bring relief from stuck stress. It is a missing link to pain-free living, and by having a balanced nervous system and healthy connective tissue, you can start making yourself feel a lot better. Our guest today no longer wakes up at night to go to the bathroom. She doesn't hormone imbalances, digestion has improved, and has become more efficient and stable when she would exercise. The method is known as the MELT method. Joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program today is our special guest, who is also runner of the studio, which is located in Oregon, and she's going to be talking about what the MELT method is. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our guest, Lucero Berry. Lucero, thank you for joining us here on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
So how did this MELT method come to fruition, I guess?
That's a good question. So the founder, the creator of the MELT method, Sue Hitzman, who lives in New York City, has been working on bodies for years, and she started in the early 2000s. She had some clients that were coming to her and asking her if they could give her some homework, and she had never thought about that because it was always, she treated a client and they went home and then they'd come back for more treatment. And so she started playing around with that and kind of experimenting on students as she was teaching in classes and kind of just getting feedback. And she started noticing that as she gave clients homework, they would come back and report bigger changes. And she started noticing that she was seeing less of the same clients and starting to get in and being able to treat more clients. So from that, this whole method kind of developed. And it took her years. But she's been doing it now for I've been teaching it for 5 years, and she's been around in the circuit since about 2005 teaching this method.
Now, when you were first introduced to it, what was it that you were looking for?
I was introduced to it I had a friend that actually in the early 2000s was starting to be one of her guinea pigs and experimenting and was a body worker and had told me about this, but because my friend, I live in the West Coast and she is in the East Coast, didn't really catch on. But I always kind of had it in the back of my head. And then about 5 years ago, I had a body worker who I really respect actually invited her to his studio in Marin. And so my husband and I one afternoon went to the studio and took an hour and a half class, and we were both just stunned at the end of it. Like, we looked at each other like, what just happened? And it was just really, a great experience. And I just knew instinctively that this was the missing link. And that's what the literature always says. It's like you can eat well and you can exercise, but people who eat well and exercise are still in pain. If not more pain, from my experience as being a teacher, a Pilates teacher. So this for me was the missing link. And it's really changed everything in my life, and I feel fantastic. And so I just really love to share it with people.
Well, I think what's interesting to note, too, is that, if you want to bring relief from stuck stress, we certainly live in an uncertain world where day to day we're not sure what each day is going to bring to us, and sometimes it may not always be good, and we try to think to ourselves, how do we wake up the next day and feel positive about what the day is going to bring us if, this seems to accumulate? And this seems to be one of those things that really addresses this in quite a unique way. Tell us about people who have actually maybe suffered from depression. They don't feel very motivated. They just really feel like, my life kind of, let's just quite frankly say it, it feels like it just sucks.
Yeah. I know a lot of those people who actually come to me oftentimes in bouts of depression and with and suffering and lack of motivation and suffering in their bodies. And it's oftentimes they come because it's the last resort. And so often I tell people when they start like this, the question is, how do I begin self-care? My very first thing I say is, well, coming to me, they're finding support. But I also think that people need to find a buddy. I think that having a buddy, like an exercise buddy, just some kind of buddy that you can start, doing gentle walking in the morning. Just be accountable that from, when you get up, you meet them at 7:30 and you do a half an hour walk. Nothing has to be like a big deal, but I think starting slowly and finding somebody to support you is key. And then I think once I think it's just getting started, getting the ball rolling, and then things start happening. And so that's my experience with it.
Now, talk about what the melt method is. What exactly do you do? Is it stretching, or what exactly happens?
It's not stretching. So what the melt method does is that it's a self-treatment. Like, kind of think of it as hands-off body work. So you're mimicking massage, and you're mimicking gentle massage. So specifically, what we're addressing is the connective tissue system. And you want to kind of think of this connective tissue system as this, this vast web-like system that covers our whole body from head to foot. And it's that which is what's giving us our posture and holding us together. Most people think it's muscles and bones, but it's actually the connective tissue system. And it's there where all our nerve pain ending, all our pain lives in, and all our nerve endings. It's there where the dehydration starts occurring on a cellular level. And it's so through mimicking massage with rollers and balls, what we're doing is we're doing a little bit of a lengthening and compression technique that just helps hydrate the tissue, which then actually impacts muscles and bones because it creates space in joints. It balances out the muscles. It gives tone to the skin. So it's kind of like really the thing that Sue Hitzman says all the time is the issue is in the tissue. So it's just really taking a step back and thinking about the body and thinking about that layer underneath the skin. And so it's a real gentle approach. And what's so lovely about it is that the results are immediate, like immediate. You get really fast results. And then people ask, well, how long does this last? And it's just that extra element that you need to add in every day, because every day we live stressful lives, stress accumulates, and we want to wipe it away at night so that we don't just it's the stress that keeps, building up that is creating all the pain and all the chronic issues, I think, in our current society.
Now, it's interesting because people say, oh, great, I'm already busy enough, and now here's one more thing I have to do. But certainly this seems to have the kind of benefits that you need to find time to do this, right?
Yes, you really do. And, I hear this all the time, but that's the advantage of mouth is it's very quick. As you said in your intro, just 10 minutes a day, 3 times a week. Seriously. I think people can carve out that little bit of time. And I often tell people, this is what I tell my clients all the time. We kind of brainstorm. We're like, there's so many times in your day that you really are doing nothing. And you're, slow down on Facebook, or you don't have to look at your emails. There's waiting for tea to boil or your water to, your coffee to set. You can do the footwork treatment. It takes like 1.5 minutes each foot. Or some people, I don't do this, but some people as they're brushing their teeth do the footwork while they're brushing their teeth, and then they can work on balance, and so they get to double task. Another time, I'd actually do this at night when I'm watching TV. I do a lot of my melting at night, and then it motivates my husband, and so sometimes I'll get on the floor and I'll do the whole treatment and then feel fantastic when I'm done, and then you'll get down on the floor and copy me. So there really are times to do it. You just have to just make it a habit. And once it's a habit, it becomes just part of your day.
And it was interesting because, earlier I was thinking about people who may come, they feel depressed or they don't feel motivated, sort of that brain fog feeling and that feeling of, lost hope at times, just those kind of things that people can feel. Now, mentally, what happens? Does this really actually, as you do this, shift all that to where you're clearing up and thinking, I'm feeling pretty good, like, well, let's think about going after some goals and getting excited about life again.
Yeah, it really does do that. I mean, it's a body-mind technique, and our brains are reactive off of what's going on in our hormones and what's going on if our bodies are feeling stiff and achy. And so it all plays together. And I think that just literally lying on the ground and doing some really gentle, you can just even do one thing, rebalance the nervous system, get those stress reflexes quieted down, and just that will literally take away some of the fog in the mind. It really does. And I think that once you kind of feel good in your body, you're much more motivated to go for that long walk or walk those steps instead of take the elevator every time. I mean, it really does lead to positive behavior.
Now, it's interesting because, you also have to consider, what about people who might have injuries? Is this something they can do? And if so, is it limited or does it really begin to improve things? Tell us about that.
Yeah. This was most of Sue Hitzman's clients all had injuries, anything from chronic neck pain to all kinds of diseases. This is super helpful. For me, I can give you a personal story. I have a client currently who's a kidney transplant, and the work has been super helpful for him to get because of his kidneys and his body's rejecting them. His feet and hands tend to get very they blow up a little bit, and you can kind of see this fluid, that it's hard. When you touch it, it's hard. It's not like, it doesn't look like inflammation or feel like inflammation. And basically what's happening is that their kidneys are just having a hard time to pull blood and move fluid around. And so the melt method actually helps the body, helps the kidneys a little bit. So you do a little bit of compression technique, and it really does get that blood flow going so that his stiffness would go away. And then when I would melt him and then start exercising him, his body was much more responsive and to exercise. So he's a perfect example. But I've worked with people with broken feet and broken legs, and I've worked with people with frozen shoulders, and we just work around it and just go very indirect, deal with whatever issues. You just kind of go indirect with the melt stuff. And our bodies are whole. Everything's connected. So just doing the indirect approach really makes a big difference with injury, if that makes sense to you.
Well, some things do, and some things you just say, okay, well, I take your word for it.
Yeah, there has to be some faith, and, yeah.
Now, is this anything like, let's say, myofascial release, reflexology, yoga, Pilates, things like that? So myofascia is the connective tissue in the muscle, and so that you hear that term knocked around quite a bit, and so people are talking about that. We're specifically, in the MELT method, we're specifically talking about the extracellular tissue that's outside of that. This tissue is very specific, even though that fascia isn't everything from your skin through your bone. We're dealing with this outer layer of it. But, yeah, it definitely influences, because it's influencing your muscles, so it influences the myofascia. And also, this is just an add-in. This will actually make your yoga better, your running better. I do a little bit of melt before I do yoga, and it just wipes away a lot of stress so that all my form is just better. And the same with Pilates. It's just it settles you down so that your body is back reset. It just comes back to balance, and then when you work out, you just work out with better form and better energy. Now, what kinds of improvements have you seen in people, for instance, that weren't very mobile before? Some people, they get older and pretty soon they're, hauling around walkers or, finding it hard to get up out of a chair and walk to the kitchen, for instance. Have you seen really significant improvements in people's mobility, especially later in the years?
Yeah, I've seen huge changes. I moved here. I just opened up this studio in March of this year of 2016. Prior to the studio, I had a studio in San Francisco, and I had quite an older clientele there, and I had about 10 clients in their 70s, and they swear, and I swear, I've seen huge changes in their bodies over time. They actually got, every single one of them would say, my body and my mind got younger by doing this work. And they could prove it by, I have one client who would just notice that over the years, her group of women, when they went walking, just slowly started adding in the walkers and adding all that stuff, and she was actually getting more nimble and stronger. So it definitely works. Yeah.
What has been some of the most significant changes you've seen in people that you've worked with?
I'd say one of my biggest changes for somebody that for about 10 years, he's a Pilates client and an avid bike rider and a meditation teacher. And he came to me every week very, very, very crooked. And didn't really have a real body sense that he was as off as I told him he was, but he definitely had a sense that after we melted and after we did Pilates, he would feel much more pulled together. And at first, when I first worked with him, I would say for about 8 years, I only did Pilates with him, and I would literally watch him kind of bounce back into his crookedness by the time he left the studio, and I'd think, what the heck is going on with that? And it turned out that when I started adding in the melt, he just started noticing something changed in his mind, and all of a sudden he realized that he got a little bit more awareness and started paying attention more to his day-to-day activities and the bad habits that he was doing during the day that was causing the imbalances. And the combination of the Pilates and the melt really transformed him dramatically. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I've seen that. I mean, I've been teaching for 20 years. I do have a lot of stories, but his was pretty huge because I got to see, I got to kind of have my frustration and think, oh, wow, Pilates is not fixing it. But then I added this one little extra thing. It took me 10 minutes to add it into his session, and it really changed it dramatically. So I got to see the combo.
Lucero, I was thinking, when you think of this day and age, how so many people love to back things up by science. It's like nothing's legitimate unless you stamp that scientific seal. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting, too, though, is those same people that you tend to hear lauding science around, this is backed by science. Well, did you realize you can get science to prove anything you want to? Mm-hmm. And goodness gracious knows that in the medical community we certainly see a lot of that. There's crazy websites like a thing I heard of called Quackwatch, and you go on there, okay, this is some doctor decided to belittle what other people are doing out there because he's a legitimate doctor, so he knows better than everybody kind of a thing. And you find that interesting that you have such bias out there when what you should be focused on is, well, what actually works for people. And as you're saying here, 20 years in the business of helping people regenerate and get to feeling good, you've seen things work. That's what you're based on, results. That's what people come to see you for, is results, and that's certainly what I like to bring to the program. So in the interest of people who think they have to be science-minded, what kind of scientific experts have taken a look at melt and basically said, well, this is exactly what they said it is?
Tons. Right now, Sue, I don't have the specifics in front of me, but if anybody went to the Melt Method website, you could see how all the studies that are being done right now scientifically with Harvard and with a bunch of other organizations to see how melt impacts like lower back pain, for instance. The statistics behind chronic back pain is pretty huge, and what a difference just literally melting your feet does to chronic back pain. So there's definitely work backing it all up. But he's in San Francisco, but I had a gentleman who's a researcher and a surgeon, and I've had quite a few surgeons, and they're definitely hard hard to convince, but I don't convince them. I'm just like, just do it and see how you feel afterwards, and that's all it takes, seriously. You know? We don't even have to talk the science. I'm like, just do it.
Yeah, just do it. See what happens.
Just do it and see what happens. And if you don't like it, we don't have to do it. But trust me, I have enough experience to put in there a before and after. I'm like, this is how it feels without it. This is how it feels after. Make a choice. And 100% of the time, they're going to go, well, I feel much better after I melt. So they're the ones that we just do it, get them out of their head, and get them to feel. And then people who aren't so science-oriented are just like, just help me feel good. They don't care. Yeah.
Those are the kind of scientists you like. I'm just interested in the result. You don't have to explain to me why it works. And I think it sometimes really can bleed something right out. And I think it's an interesting habit that most of us have when it comes to finding something that may improve our lives. We want the very best, so we'll research something to death.
Yeah.
And then we just never really get started with it.
Yes, that happens.
Now, what excites you the most about all of this? I mean, I could see how it'd be exciting, changing lives, watching lights go on constantly in people as they realize, I feel like I'm actually claiming my life back. And we all know, too, going back to the doctors, that it's 90+% of the people who go to see a doctor there because of stress-related symptoms. That's really what it comes down to, and you can see how this gets in there and it relaxes and kind of, does what it does to the connective tissues, and you realize, I didn't realize I was holding so much in me. I always thought I was pretty relaxed.
Mm-hmm. And so you're asking what, I didn't get it. So you're just wondering what you're just making commentary on people who haven't really incorporated any self-care into their lives?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tricky. I mean, I think what excites me about this, the thing that really excites me is that I've been teaching it now for 5 years, and I've been teaching Pilates for over 18 years, and it's really nice to have this added technique, this added method, that when people come to me with some problems or their joints aren't just working quite the right way. Say, for instance, there's a lot of clicking and snapping and crunching in a shoulder joint, which happens as we age, right? This is one of the things that happen, and we're told by the medical community that, it's just age, it is the way it is. But it's not true. It's just dehydration in the tissue and a little bit of instability in the joint. It's a really easy fix. And so what's nice is that I feel like I'm trying to take the mystery out of it, is that we can age with grace and we can feel fantastic as we age, but we just have to put a little bit of effort into it. And the key word is a little. It doesn't take a lot. So that's what excites me, is to teach that, because it's for me. I'm 54 and I feel fantastic. And you don't hear that from many 54-year-olds.
And you don't sound 54 years old either, so apparently it really works well with the voice.
Yeah. Maybe it does.
Be seeing you on American Idol here pretty soon. Interesting stuff. Now, if people want to find out more about this, where can they go if they want to get started?
I think that, to find out more about the MELT method, especially for people in the Oregon area who are who don't live right in Portland, there's a lot of MELT teachers. Portland loves MELT. And so there's a lot of us out here. So one way people can do it is they can go to the meltmethod.com website, and then there's a teacher search. So they can just put in the town they live in and look for a teacher. That's a really easy way to do it. They've made that really, really fluid and easy. Or they can contact me, too, at my studio. At Studio Reset, and then I can, if they don't live near me, I can do a referral. There's some amazing teachers around here that are teaching this, so it's kind of exciting that that we can refer this out to people in different areas of Oregon.
Now, I know that one of the benefits that we really haven't talked about here, and I think this was one that you actually experienced pretty much almost the first session, is that of improvement in digestion. Now, on the program, we've talked quite a bit about the brain-gut connection, and how when you begin to have a healthy digestive system, that you begin to have very healthy thinking and very strong, very solid thoughts, so to speak. So tell us, how does this actually help in the digestive process?
So to get a little more specific about the autonomic nervous system, which is what MELT is actually kind of targeting, we call it the ANS, the autonomic nervous system. It's the 3 stress regulators, and so everybody's heard of the parasympathetic and sympathetic. So the sympathetic is the fight or flight. The parasympathetic is more down to the resting state. And you kind of think of it as a seesaw, and we're trying to get those 2 regulators at the end of the seesaw to kind of be even. And in the very middle is the enteric, which is what there's science is talking about that more and more. That's the gut. So if your parasympathetic or your sympathetic is off, it's directly, constantly affecting your gut. And so it's really to all of our advantages of getting our regulators stable so that our gut and our stomach and our digestion can do its job without further stress.
Certainly after you start feeling that get into order, I'm sure that you start taking a look at your diet and thinking, well, how can I improve here? I'm feeling so good, I kind of want to stay there.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because you start noticing it and feeling it. So we're waking up this extra sense in us called the body sense. And so, once you start, getting tuned in and having a little bit more body sense, you want to eat better and you want to move more. And yeah, it's a domino effect. It really, I've seen it. I've seen it with a lot of people. So it just takes just a little nudging at first, and then it becomes a habit.
Well, very good. It's certainly a wonderful habit to have, especially if it helps you to be more motivated to create better habits and move you in the direction of your life that you truly want to see yourself going.
Yeah.
Now, your website is studioresetpdx.com.
Correct.
Very good. So if you're located in Portland, Oregon, and you're listening to this, that's certainly a place you can go visit, or on the website as well as the studio itself. And then one more time, the website for general people who are listening.
For general people, it's www.studioresetpdx.com.
Very good. Any closing thoughts for our listeners, Lucero?
I don't. I just offer, I'm a new studio. I have a lot of experience. I offer some great classes. There are very many of us who do the combo of Pilates and MELT, and it's a lovely, lovely pairing. And so I would love to see people, and if they call me from if they listen to this, I'll give a little discount as an incentive to come to me.
You'll get a full glass of grapefruit juice for the cost of a half of a glass. That's your incentive right there.
That's exactly
It's interesting, and I want to bring this up, too. I think it's important because I know that we like to post our interviews on YouTube, and we get a lot of interaction out there around the world from people. Yeah. And from time to time, there was this big long thread on a particular modality we had brought up. This was actually a few years back. And they're wondering, well, if this is so great, how come it isn't free? Everybody seems to want something for free. And I'm like, so the best response that I could give to them is, well, if it was free, do you actually think you would be committed to doing it? I mean, really, think about that.
I agree. Yeah.
And then if you don't get the results, and you're going to turn around and say, well, this stuff was crap anyway. It's because that's the kind of incentive or the motivation you put into it. But anyway, I wanted to bring that up because I thought it was pretty interesting how you'll sometimes see that out there with people, and it's like, look, make an effort. You'll be surprised. Even if it costs you a little bit of money, the reason is because you will make a commitment to do it.
Yes, and you're investing in yourself, right?
Oh, totally. And if we can't going to invest in you, then who is?
It's the most proactive investment you can do. And that is a last statement. The thing I want to mention is proactive versus reactive. We really need to be much more proactive in our health care and in our self-care.
And I couldn't agree with you more because we've talked about that. We've talked about health insurance here on the program, things like that. And I say, almost everyone can afford to go to the doctor for a regular visit and a screening at least once a year.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason for this high-cost insurance. And I've even suggested, get major medical. So if something serious happens, then you've got insurance for why it was meant in the first place, and it's very inexpensive to do that. That being said, but the point is, you're talking about something here, this melt method, which, takes care of pretty much, again, I said earlier in the program, more than 90+% of the people who go visit doctors is stress-related. This is melting stress away. How often do you really think you need to go see a doctor after this?
Right, yeah, really well said. And
Got Dr. Lucero here go, well, maybe you're not a doctor, but close enough. But you were about to say, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with you. Yeah.
Well, another encouraging thing to note before we go is that, as I listened to your voice and then you were saying you were 54, and I thought, boy, she doesn't sound like that at all. I'd guess, in your late 20s, maybe early 30s at best. But what I've noticed, too, is an interesting phenomenon, especially women. The aging process is so different this day and age than it used to be. Before you used to see 50, 60-year-olds, they were usually white-haired little old ladies, but now, 50, 60, 70 years old, you're thinking, these girls are starting to look good, guys. You better start making sure that you take care of yourself when you're 50, 60, and 70 years old because they're getting hot.
It's true. I had a woman come in, first client, when she told me she was 67, I almost fell backwards. She literally looked, I thought in my head, 55. When she told me she was 68, I was like, whoa. I was like, all right. And so, she goes, I do Pilates, and so she's coming from another studio and wanted to do the combo of melt and Pilates. So, you see it a lot. So that's exciting. It's exciting.
Well, what's exciting, I thought I'd bring that up to end the show because it's like, okay, people, if you want something free, well, this is going to take a commitment here, but look at the end result. It can be pretty exciting for you.
Yes.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program. Again, give out that one main website people can find out more.
Yes, www.studioresetpdx.com.
Very good. What a treat to have you on the program today. I'm going to get excited to see about incorporating this into my habits. I certainly know that I've got time enough to do this. So
you can, and you can get it. She has a great video and a book. It's really, really easy to do. Really is, and I highly recommend it.
And since we're located in Portland, Oregon, maybe we'll swing by for that half a cup of grapefruit juice.
That would be awesome.
All right,
that would be such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us here on the program.
Mm-hmm.
We want to thank you, the listeners out there. Again, the ball's in your court. Get out there and take advantage of the opportunities that we present here on the program so that you can feel better and help others to do the same. You can also discover more by visiting us at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. We encourage you to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter. You'll see the little sign-up box up there to the right-hand side of the website page. And keep up to date with what's going on here in the Beyond 50 community. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 radio program. And remember, live your day past halfway.